All right, welcome back to the channel. Today we have a car that was restored here last year, and we have the owner of said car here.
Hi.
This is a 2001 BRG Special Edition, and we'll get into all the details on the car and what all was done to it, but what's more interesting about this car is the backstory and the history and how it came to be. So tell us the story of how you came to acquire this.
Hi, my name is John Gunther, and I'm the owner of the Gideon Project. And the Gideon Project came to fruition back when my son was 14 years old. He purchased this car as a complete basket case. Rockers were rusted, engine was in poor shape, and it needed a ton of work. And he and I started to do some of that work. And then of November of 2020, tragically, we lost him. And about 2 weeks after that incident, I'm like, my wife and I had a conversation, and we decided that we were going to completely restore this car from the ground up. And so that's how the Gideon project started, is me and a couple of Gideon's friends started working on it. And we worked on it probably for about 3 months or so. And we started breaking more things than we were fixing. And that's when I reached out to Leroy and to see if they were interested in the project. Obviously, they were, and they took it over, December of January, March?
Winter time.
Yeah, winter time of 2021 sometime. And and they had it for probably about 10 months and did basically everything that you see on the car has been touched and replaced.
Yeah, this car was very rotted. We'll put pictures up here, but the front frame rails were completely gone. The both fenders and rockers were completely gone. It looked like it had been sat in a puddle and left to ferment. The interior was in decent shape, but we went ahead and did new carpet. You did these seats reupholstered. Now, this is a 2001 BRG, which, if you know the answer, let us know. Best our research says they made 3,000 of these.
True BRGs.
True BRGs, whatever a true BRG is. Depending on which forum you go to, I've seen different numbers for how many they produced. We've seen quite a few of these for how rare they are. They're very, very popular, and everywhere we go, this is the car that everyone flocks to want to look at. It's stock, essentially stock. We did everything got touched, everything got rebuilt, so brand new engine, brand new suspension, every single bushing's been replaced. It's sitting on Raceland coilovers, and is there a Raceland bar in the front?
Yes.
Is it stock? Yeah, front sway bar, no rear sway bar. Sparco gold wheels. We did a couple interesting things. We went for the purest Miata form, so no air conditioning, no power steering, and no power brakes even. We got rid of the brake booster and went with a manual setup, which is a very different feel. It's a very linear braking feel, which it takes a little bit of getting used to, but once you get used to it, it's kind of fun. It's really controllable. You can dive right into where your braking point is. Yeah, we did our same sub box and sound system that we've been putting in everything recently. So this is the second car ever to get that system put in it. So since then we've sold about 200 of these units, but this was the second one to get it. So 2 kickers and 4 6.5 speakers with Apple CarPlay and a touchscreen. We elected to keep most of the interior cosmetically the same. We wanted to maintain the British Racing Green theme and not remove anything that was iconic to that. So it's got the same steering wheel, shifter, parking brake knob, all of the 4 different shades of wood as they came from the factory. Exhaust wise, we did the Racing Beat long tube headers. We did a Cobalt cat midsection, mid-pipe with a cat in it. And then we messed around with a couple of different mufflers. We made one from scratch that looked very cool and it sounded amazing at idle, but it droned horribly on the road. We tried swapping it out for a couple of different off-the-shelf ones, and eventually you landed on putting the OEM muffler back on.
I did. Through our conversation at the beginning of the project, I really didn't know what I wanted. And one of the first questions that John asked was, is this going to be a track car or a road car? And so that really determined that we were going to keep everything stock. We were going to keep all the environmental aspects on the car intact, and but given the wire tuck, all of that stuff is in the passenger side fender.
Right.
So it really cleaned up the engine bay. This is exactly what Gideon would have wanted, and I think he would be extraordinarily happy with the outcome.
We did a depowering of the factory rack instead of going with a pre-made manual rack. We actually cut down, machined, and lathed the turret smooth, so it looks really pretty. How many miles have we put on this now? Because we took it on the cruise this year. So
I've got about 6,000 miles on it.
Okay.
Yes. Absolutely no issues. It is and my background, I've had a lot of British cars in the past, and so having the manual brakes, the manual steering, no air conditioning, I really wanted to harken back to those days of just that full mechanical feel, linear feel, and I didn't really want any assist. There has been a couple regrets deleting air conditioning, but honestly, when you take it out when it's 95 plus degrees out, other than we're on.
Have we had any thoughts about putting a roll bar in it someday?
We have, and I think that one thing that my wife and I talked about, we would love to get a Bimini top for this, and the only way to do that
is with a roll bar.
With a roll bar. So
you actually had an Amish guy do the upholstery on the seats.
I had a Amish guy reupholster the seats and also do the top. And when I picked up the top, he was very proud of the headliner that he sewed into the top. He does a lot of hot rods, and he had never seen, and nor did I tell him, nope, these tops do not come with a headliner. And so this is the only Miata that you will see with a headliner, and it is not good. Do not do that. So,
but you saved some of the material that we made the seats out of, and then we coated the sub box in the exact same material, so everything matches in there.
Yep.
All right. So with that, let's take it out on the road and see how it drives. Yeah, the manual brake booster is just different to get used to. You have to push it further.
Yes.
The same braking force is there, it's just further down in the stroke.
I love it. I absolutely love the feel of it. Because I can feel when it's about to lock up. I can feel when it's,
So how long did Gideon drive this before he started disassembling it?
The woman that had it, that we purchased it from, that he purchased it from, was the original owner. She had it for over 20 years, obviously. Well, actually, in 2001, 20, she had it for about 17 years. And probably the last 3 to 4 years, she let all maintenance, she became very neglectful of the car. It was never garaged. The original top had been duct taped, and she had unfortunately let cats nest in the interior and on the top. So it smelled like cats when we bought it. And so that was one of the first things we did was when we got it home, we took the top off, replaced the top, and scrubbed the interior as best we could. And he drove it. He started driving it right off the bat. Even though he wasn't 16 yet, he started driving it right away. And just around the yard and around the neighborhood and things like that. once he turned 16, he started driving it everywhere because it had the new top. The interior had been deodorized, and yeah, so.
Yeah, so it did run when you got it.
It absolutely ran. Yep.
When you brought the motor here, it did not look like a motor that would run.
It ran. Did it burn oil? Yes. Did it have leaks? Yes.
Oh, and we remember, look, how many miles were... So it had about 150K when we started the restoration. Thereabouts, we think.
Thereabouts. And when we purchased the car, it had 148,000. So he...
Okay, so we did 2,000 miles or so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pre-restoration. Car with that many miles on it, the bushings were shot,
everything underneath that could corrode was corroded.
Yes, so. But it still handled great,
it's a Miata.
Right, for as many miles as it had on it, for the struts, they weren't in the best shape. And because it was a special edition, it did have these 16-inch tires on it.
Yep.
And that was the only negative of the ride, because those tires were like ribbons.
And this car has the same shocks, coilover, and alignment as my car, and it's the same year. But my car has the original bushings that are now 22 years old.
Ah.
And this one feels much taunter since it's all brand new bushings. Even though they're OEM bushings, they're not 20 years old. Degraded rubber. Just a bit more precision.
Right. Well, the handling is far beyond. I have a history in British cars, MG Midgets. I had a Triumph, and the handling is far beyond any of those. So, and those are, the Midget is a very tossable car. I had a Triumph GT6, and that's pretty tossable, but this is far beyond those in terms of just handling and not having any body roll or anything like that when you corner.
Part of it is the manual, or the manual steering with the power steering removed. It's a little harder to turn, but you have more road feel with it, and you just know exactly where the front wheel is at. Yeah, the brakes felt better that time. I knew to push further.
Yes.
If I push that far in my car, they lock up. So it's just a recalibrating your brain as to where the foot needs to go.
And I will say, when we did Tail the Dragon, we drove Tail the Dragon quite aggressively. It was extremely helpful to be able to feel every nuance of the road through the manual steering on Tail the Dragon.
Now, do you think that people like the BRGs for the history, or they genuinely just like the aesthetic of the green with the tan and the gold wheels?
So I did some research, and less than 1% of all cars are green. And so when you see a green car, it's sort of a anomaly. It's not the typical white, silver, black. Any car that is outside that white, silver, black color is different from everything else. And so I feel like with this British Racing Green, it has the propensity to draw people in just because it's a completely different color.
Yeah, it's just abnormal.
The wheels coordinate with the carve the color really well, and then when you pop the hood, you know, the valve cover, the whole theme of the car just brings everything together. Well, and you know, my opinion, if you threw a BRG on a modern car, it does not look the same. If you took a Corvette C8, painted it British racing green, I feel like it's not going to have the same draw as a Miata BRG.
It is very cool. It's definitely a showstopper. Every car show we're at with this thing, it's the favorite, hands down. So,
well, and I also didn't realize how, you know, with the Nardi steering wheel, the wooden shift knob, I didn't realize how special the car was when we purchased it. And I know you had talked about replacing the wooden steering wheel, yeah. And I'm really glad we didn't.
I'm very glad we did not do that. That would have been a mistake in hindsight. I did not realize how rare and special this color scheme was either. To me, it was just a green car that had tan, and I should think it should have black.
Right.
But once we started digging into the history and realizing why they made these, they only made them 2 years, 91 and 01, and it's, you know, this is a very special thing, and it.
Yeah, 3,000 were produced in 01, 3,000 were produced in 2002.
So.
Supposedly,
and shoot, maybe half of those still exist. So
right,
this is a very rare car. So, all right, well, very good.
All right,
Thanks for bringing it up.
Absolutely.